Sean Murphy, we love you, and he's about to speak to us, and I don't know what the title of your talk was.
Yes, I think we're calling it Studying Mind in Difficult Times.
All right.
Perfect.
Woohoo. Welcome, Sean.
Yay, hooray, yay.
I think we, oh, do I have the camera?
No, sorry, gotta pay attention.
Pay attention, Mike.
Yeah, you can get it closer.
I'm going to.
Hello, all Zoomies at home. Good to see you all. And everyone here, nice to see you all. Thank you.
That's good, I hope.
Yes,
Close.
very good.
All right. So I think we're somewhat on the same wavelength here today because Mike mentioned learning to appreciate the present moment, and Jenny's story about your grandson, it was striking. I had croup when I was a kid, and it's one of the reasons we moved from New York. So I'm one of the people who knows what croup is because I had it a bunch. But what I was struck by is you saying the calm that came over you. And I've met people in the meditation world who had an experience like an accident or something, and they found this preternatural calm coming upon them in that setting that they'd never experienced before, and they had to know what that was. And one way to boil down what happens in those times like that is we're entirely in the moment, right?
Very much so.
And that's also why the magic's so apparent when you were driving him to the hospital is we so often with the minds we've been gifted with, the human minds that can think about the past and future, when we have this great tendency to forget about the present, right? And when we really have to be immersed in the present in a deep way, because sometimes it's life or death, right? We can do it, but we often forget in our daily lives to do that. I've just been thinking about a lot of this because I just started my university class that I teach every semester for in meditation for credit. Incidentally, anyone who happens to be over 65, you can take that class basically for free if you want, and you can still sign up. I just started it. It's you can take it for $5 a credit hour. And
When does it meet?
It meets at Thursday at noon, and on the Civic Plaza Drive campus. Anyway, I've been teaching that every semester for I think 20 years or so, and so I'm really accustomed to dealing with. Well, I used to get a lot of beginners. Now more and more people know about meditation. They know some of the principles. But I also know when I'm dealing with university students that a lot of people won't go on to meditate. So what do I give people in a semester that will improve their lives? And we can definitely take some of the principles from meditation, whether we're practitioners or not, and apply them to our lives. And one of the biggies is the present moment, which has been coming up already all morning. I think a lot of us have heard the formulation that comes from the original Buddhist teachings that the suffering of life is caused by grasping and or aversion. And if we boil down beyond that, what's there to grasp or push away if we're in the present moment, right? Grasping or pushing away always means we're imagining a different moment, something we don't have now, or we're imagining a better moment than this, so let's push this one away, right? But if we look very closely at our present moment experience, aren't most present moments just fine, if not nice? Isn't this present moment nice? So when I start a class, I often will ask the class just a few basic questions, because people come to a meditation class expecting stress reduction and some calmness and some clarity of mind, and those things happen, but there's a deeper well to draw from beyond that. And And also, where does the calmness come from? The calmness comes from centering ourselves in the present moment, and most present moments, nothing bad is happening. There are bad present moments where bad things do happen. I'm talking about personally to us. If we start taking in the rest of the world, well, there's always something bad happening to someone. But we still need to balance ourselves in our own lives, or we're not very well suited to help others. So a lot of meditation is bringing our attention back to the present moment, and when it drifts away, bringing it back again and again. So one of the questions I'll ask a class is how many of you, I'll ask you all, how many of you all have noticed your thinking minds doing things you'd rather not have it do, but you don't seem to be able to control it, often leading to emotions that we'd rather not have, but we don't seem to be able to do anything about that, and sometimes leading to actions we'd rather not take, but we don't seem to be able to do anything about that. I mean, we have some modicum of influence over our minds, emotions and actions, but there's always those pockets that run themselves, right? I had a member of my family who doesn't understand meditation at all, or why I would bother doing it, much less teaching it, asked me, why do you meditate? And I asked those questions. I said, do you find your thoughts doing things, just what I'll ask you, thoughts, emotions, actions that don't seem to be under your control? And he said, oh no, that never happens to me. So I thought, okay, I don't think we can pursue the conversation much after that.
What's his teaching?
I don't know. His teaching is America. I don't know. Just live and be an American.
Rock and roll.
I want to tell a little story about how I first discovered this in a big way, rediscovered it, because of course we all know this as children, right? But we tend to forget it somewhere on the path through adolescence to adulthood. Adolescence is all about the things we want to grasp after, right? and who we're going to become, and all about stuff that's not about the present moment, which is, just a natural part of our development. But when I was in my second year of college, I was 19 years old, and I was beset by these two irrational fears. And I knew they were irrational, but that didn't mean I could do anything about it, right? So they were that I would either go blind or that I would become paralyzed, okay? And that sounds rather neurotic for a 19-year-old kid, but I later came to understand that those were kind of coalescing of childhood fears. I was in a foster home for 2 years. And I came out of that experience, that was between age 6 and 8. I came out of that experience as a pretty frightened and withdrawn kid. And that started to clear as I got into adulthood, but somehow it boiled down to those two fears, that I was going to be blind or paralyzed. And the thing is, I was 19 years old, I was a smart kid. I knew that it was very unlikely statistically to happen. And even if it was going to happen, what's the sense of worrying about it? Because, if it happens, I'll have to deal with it. But what am I going to do? Put a down payment on a wheelchair and learn Braille? Just in case, And here I am 50 years later, and neither thing has happened. So it's pretty clear now I needn't have worried about it. But at the time, those thoughts tortured me. And if you've ever had irrational worries or fears, you know what that's like. Just knowing that it was irrational, that it probably wouldn't happen, didn't help me. So one day I was going for a hike or something with a friend, and I went over to his house, and he went to go to the bathroom or get some stuff together, I don't know. And I was standing in his living room looking at his bookshelf, waiting for him. And this book just stood out for me. It was just called Awareness. And this was the 70s, and all sorts of ideas were kicking around about what we can do with our minds and consciousness and all these things. And the book just attracted me, and I plucked it off the shelf. I never read the book. I just read the back of the book while I was waiting for my friend. But the back of the book was one of those 70s things. It said something like, awareness is cool, you can practice it, it will, make your life better, and this is a way of exploring the mind, and why not do it? And I thought, oh, that's intriguing. I stuck it back on the shelf. My friend came out, we went out for whatever we did. Well, it just stuck with me in my head, and this awareness thing, and I was living in an off-campus dorm, and I had a 15-minute walk to campus every day for my classes, and I lived in Santa Barbara. I was going to UC Santa Barbara, so it's a lovely setting, Santa Barbara, and the weather's always perfect. And I thought, it just came to me while I'm walking to class, why not practice this awareness thing? So I really started practicing it. It was not that hard to do. There's beautiful mountains and trees and flowers and birds, all sorts of stuff. Just like we have here, although we forget about it a lot, don't we? And anyway, what I started to notice is this, basically I was practicing mindfulness, although I didn't know that's what it was yet, a meditative technique that's portable, right? That's mindfulness, bringing our mind to the present moment. And I enjoyed it. I started to notice that instead of worrying about going blind or getting paralyzed or my love life, which was another, common obsession at age 19. There was always something to worry about, right? I noticed when I was really practicing that I didn't worry about those things. And then I thought, I wonder if I could practice that coming to the moment at other times. And I started to notice that when my mind would drift into these fantasies of an imagined, rather terrifying future, right? Of being blind or paralyzed or both, that I could just bring my mind back to the present moment and those thoughts would go away. So somehow I intuited that it was possible to make some progress on this. And of course, to take on something like that, I'm bringing it up because we all have patterns of mind like that aren't serving us, right? And we didn't put them there. I didn't decide one day I'm going to think about these awful things that terrify myself, and create anxiety. They just grew there, But a lot of times we don't imagine there's anything we can do about it. Anyway, it only took me, as I recall, about 3 or 4 months, and all those thoughts lost all their power over me. And as I took this on as a practice, of course, that meant I had to return to the present moment 1,000 times and let go of those thoughts and return to present experience 1,000 times, and that's just the first week, right? Because when we really have obsessive thinking, it takes something to really keep on applying oneself to that and noticing throughout the day when those things would come up, because intrusive thoughts come in all sorts of different times. When we let go of a thought pattern like that, a lot of times there's an underlying emotion that has to come out, and it wants to, maybe always there's an underlying emotion that wants to be spent, and it's kind of trapped in that thinking cycle. And so I'm sure I went through some discomfort around that. To change anything that lives in our mind is unsettling and creates some uneasiness of its own. But whatever uneasiness, I don't recall anymore, passed, and lo and behold, I didn't worry about those things anymore. Not only that, I didn't worry about anything anymore very much, except my love life, of course, which was a constant worry still for a long time. But anyway, that's also normal. But it's kind of remarkable because I've just learned from dealing with students every semester that most people have either these irrational worries or another thing somebody mentioned, which is negative self-talk. Jenny mentioned it. And I had both. I had the worry thing was not that difficult to deal with. It still took some effort to do that. But what I discovered was the fear I'd been carrying was not innate to my character. It wasn't a core issue. It wasn't that hard to deal with. I was just, scared from my childhood, and that was a lingering effect of it. But I also had this negative self-talk issue, and that I didn't take on until much later. I was in my 30s, and I've had a meditation practice for a few years. But it's the same thing, noticing that there's patterns of the thinking mind that are that are not serving that we wouldn't have put there, and taking that on because the thinking mind is 80% or more about past and future, right? And the other thing it's sometimes about is judging the present. If you have negative self-talk, I was bad in the past, I'm going to be bad in the future, and I'm bad now, right? Or deficient. That's the way I think I felt about myself a lot. And I was also trying to write my first novel at the time. And when especially when you're writing your first book, you don't even know if you can do it. You don't know if you can finish it, So I found myself in my mid-30s with no clear career trajectory, trying to finish a novel and just kind of living hand to mouth on people's couches. And I camped in a friend's yard for 6 months, just whatever I could do to clear time so I could write and meditate. And you get a lot of slack when you're in your 20s for kind of kicking around, but once you hit your 30s, people start expecting you to, have some sort of a path. So that took I mention this because I advocate taking on something like this, that there's something that lives in our heads that we don't want to be there, that isn't, it certainly wasn't me who was, the true self, who was thinking so badly of myself. That was built in from peers, teachers, parents, society, all the ideas we pick up about who we're supposed to be when we're children and our minds are wide open. And then by the time we start thinking about what we think about, it's already there, right? All these ideas about who we are and who we ought to be are already there. And that was a much more of a core issue and for me. And that, as I recall, took about 1.5 years of really concerted effort to finally overcome. But that one I also was able to overcome. Now, I won't say I don't have any issues or problems. The one I deal with lately is the thought pattern that wants to get started is humanity is doomed. And I really have to work with that one because it's so convincing. But it's also not a useful thought pattern, right? Humanity's been through very difficult times before, and I have no idea what's going to happen, and I hope we get through it. And besides, I can't control it, right? There's a lot of uncontrollable things these days that our minds can run away with if we're not careful. But for a lot of times in my early adulthood, at first it was anxiety, and then it was depression that were my kind of bugbears. And when I was first in college in the 70s and early 80s, students seemed a lot more relaxed, but they're all so stressed out now, all the people who come into my classes. And I feel like we pick up what's happening in the world, that kind of these subterranean sufferings, not so subterranean sometimes, the ecological balance and species going extinct and all of the various human sufferings, they have an effect on us, and I really find my students carrying that. Sometimes it's kind of subconscious, but sometimes it's very much in the right on top. So I want to do a little experiment here with you all, if you're up for it. Let's call it non-meditation. And let's just take a couple minutes. And so I'm sure, how many people here have ever practiced meditation? You probably have all tried, yeah. And I've all tried, and some people keep it up. My joke is the most common thing I hear from people now these days is I used to meditate. That's the common thing, because it tends to drift away. And our society especially, that's not what everyone seems to be doing, although everyone here seems to have done it. So you've all had the issue of trying to bring your attention to the present moment through the breath or through a mantra or something like that, and then having the mind continuously pull us away, right? It's also possible to turn the attention directly towards the mind. And this is a little tricky because one of several things generally happens. The mind doesn't like to be caught in its thinking process. It likes to keep it a little underground so it can sneak in on you, right? It's a little bit like, how many people deal with prairie dogs? Okay. All right, we live trapped them, and one year I caught 12 of them, and there's this lovely little place on Blueberry Hill near Two Domes, and that's where I released them. I take them very far out of town, but if you're waiting for a prairie dog to come out of its hole, you're going to wait a long time, right? You're going to sit by the hole, and it's just not going to surface. As soon as you turn your back up, it comes. Well, our thoughts are like that, you know. So one of the things that happens sometimes when we try and turn our attention directly to our thoughts is that happens, they won't arise. But sooner or later, they'll sneak up. And then if we try and catch what we're thinking about, this is tricky because thoughts have this amnesia that comes with it. Once we're thinking, we forget we're thinking, right? Which is what makes meditation difficult. As we get drawn into thought, we forget we're meditating, right? So I find it very useful in dealing with this issue to look right at the thoughts. What tends to happen is either they don't come up for a while, or if we're really looking carefully, sometimes we can just see it rise and go by and not get caught in it. More often we'll get caught in it and then we'll catch ourselves, right? So it's the catching ourselves that I want to experiment with. When we catch ourselves, let's take a moment and just see what we were thinking about, okay? And whether it's about the past, whether it's about the future, or whether it's judging the present moment. The judging the present moment meaning, I can't do this, I'm not doing it right, this is impossible. You know, shut up, Sean, let me go home, right? Okay. But let's just try for a minute or two and see what we notice about our thoughts, okay? So it's good to settle into the body and the breath. But then, just from the standpoint of being in the moment in the breath, casting an eye towards the thinking mind and see what comes. If we can catch the thought, notice, oh, it's about past, it's about the future, it's about judgment. Sometimes just that recognition, it'll dissolve, because if we're doing meditation or what we're calling non-meditation, then we know that's not what we're doing at the moment. So it's not about the past, it's not about the future, and it's not about judging what's happening now. Let's just do about a minute longer, just trying to catch those thoughts. We'll live trap them and release them in the next person's mind, okay? Okay, let's come on back and just talk about this a little bit. Many people have a current meditation practice. A lot of you do, okay. Oh, I bet you'll find this helpful then, but even if you don't have a regular meditation practice, if we can get into the habit of noticing what we're thinking about, and it's entirely possible to practice coming back to the present moment. If we've ever found ourselves driving past one of our beautiful Taos sunsets and unable to focus on it because we've got some pattern going on in our mind, something we're worried about, then or if it goes beyond that and we've ever gone through a period where all the magic seemed to seep out of life and just felt like we were slogging from one problem to another, we can bet we've lost touch with the present moment. So whether or not we meditate, for instance, with my university students, this is one of the big things I try to emphasize is when we come, especially, I get people of all ages in my meditation classes, but especially when we come into young adulthood and we're first really learning how the mind works as mature humans, one of the things that causes us suffering is that we get our mental projections mixed up with what's actually happening. So we're on a day where nothing bad happens, and we all have days like that, we still find some reason to suffer because we're imagining bad things in the future, or we're judging ourselves, or we're pulling forth bad things that happened in the past, when most moments are absolutely fine. Right? So what did you all notice when you looked directly? Were you able to catch any of the thoughts? What did you catch? Yes.
My body got tenser, more tense.
I'm kind of not surprised. It takes some effort to catch the thoughts. They don't want to be caught, do they? Yeah, they want to run themselves, yeah. Were you able to still work with that and let some of the tension go? And
Sure,
yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't retain your
I'm
name.
Cato.
Cato, yes.
It's a great practice. Never heard of this. We'll definitely use the tool. But when I was getting silent and it was trying to catch what came was my cheeks flushed with a little shame. And I thought, what the heck is that? And my brain was going, oh, you should have brought cash for the offering. You have some back at where you're staying.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, just think of the now. I'm in a place of
Yeah.
love. It's all right. And then again, it flushed up and said, well, maybe they have electronic pay and you can do something. And then I went,
Yeah, the new baskets have to have a little,
yeah,
one of those.
and I went,
little-
be in the now, be in the now. And then finally, looking at that, I thought of your sign out there that said Community of Love. And I'm like, I'm loved just for being here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, but you were able to work with that and keep
Yeah.
coming back, yeah. It helps if you really see the thought, because you can see that's inconsequential, right? You can't do anything about it right now, and so why, but it's gonna keep coming back and sticking with you, right? It helps to really see the thought too, because then it knows it's been received. It's easier to let the thought go away if its message has been received. Otherwise, it's like, one of those people knocking at your door, they're gonna keep knocking until you answer, right? Yeah, Ken, what did you notice?
Wow, was that just 2 minutes?
Yeah, about 2 minutes. I was counting, yeah.
Okay. I guess for following the path that you set, Corey,
Yeah.
I went back to when I was a child, and I used to dream that I was out of my body, floating around with my teddy bear, looking at myself down here. I just remembered that came back.
Oh, wow. You were actually doing it. I glanced over and you were up near the
I
ceiling.
started I was astro-traveling before astro-traveling was cool.
Yeah,
And I didn't know that back
Wow.
then. I was just like, wow, I love this part of the dream.
yeah.
And I rolled all the way through my life,
All the way through your life in
I
2
mean,
minutes.
it doesn't take but a flicker to do
Yeah.
so.
We forgot most of it anyway, yeah.
The pieces that do shine forward.
Yeah.
And then when I dropped back into the pocket here to be meditating, I allowed myself to become much more than just where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Like got over the town, the bed, the city, wherever in the world, and then you said something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would call it a meditation, but it's sort of like a dream at the same
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
time.
Waking dream.
And I'm just grateful. I don't really know where this all takes us, because we don't know. And I'm grateful I had that opportunity to do that. Thank you.
No,
I've done that in your classes before.
Oh, great.
Usually, I wasn't always back there cutting up and flirting with the girls.
Okay, all right. Doodling and carving your initials into the
Oh,
desk.
you're
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
You can't do anything else.
Yeah. Wow, thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
Anyone else? Of course, those powers of mind are remarkable and wonderful and creative. We use them all the time, right? We use them when we're writing music or, creating in any way. But that's not what the mind spends most of its time doing, right? If we could clear out some of the other stuff, maybe we'd get more good stuff. Yes?
First I noticed that I saw like a model walking, then I saw another scene, and then I kind of like focused on here, and then I started hearing an inner sound that I sometimes hear when I contemplate. But I didn't really identify much thought, and like, for some reason, I just saw this model that I know that was just walking, and then, it was some scene somewhere else, and it wasn't really a thought, and then, like I said, I focused on hearing now, and I started hearing the buzzing in my ears.
Sometimes they're phenomena that are just present here. Some people always hear a tone or see certain light or colors. At a certain point when I was dealing directly with thought, this is part of why I was sharing this. It was very helpful for me to notice at a certain point that most of the thinking mind's material has to do with past and future. And if I'm practicing the present moment, it's inconsequential, right? So just to notice that would sometimes make it just dissipate. But I also, at a certain point, had to identify for myself what thought was. And this seems odd because we take it so much for granted that we think and we know what we, but it was so helpful for me to recognize, okay, if there are words coming through my mind and I'm latching onto them, that's thinking. And then also if there's little movies coming through my mind and I'm latching onto them, that's also a different form of thinking, right? So those are the two primary ones we tend to have. If we're practicing the present moment, well, there's kind of not much to think about unless some creative insight comes up, unless we're doing creative work. But as I say, when we're caught in all the static, it's like trying to tune into the right radio channel, right? There's so much static in our minds that it can be hard to find that creative channel, that positive, that channel that carries insights like we're more than insight, a direct experience of our connection. Speaking of present moments, we're at that moment where Jenny has to send us off.
So what was happening for me, thank you, yes, thank you for a beautiful talk.
Yeah, what was happening to you, Jenny?
I was thinking, oh darn, I don't have a solo, I don't know what I'm gonna play next.
Yeah.
But then this mantra came into my mind, which I'm about to sing for you, and it made me think, oh yeah, if you have any kind of mantra, that's helpful in whatever thought is going on to come back to your mantra, to your Om or whatever's going on. So
There's
this
no place like home.
right, place like home, it's so true.
But you could also use something like peace.
Yeah. So these are the words of Ram Dass, actually, that my friend Bobby put to this little tune. And I like it because it has you can see it in two different ways. And it's I am loving awareness. 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 And that can bring you back.
Thank you, for
Being
sure.
in loving awareness.
Thank you.
So yeah, mantra, when it's really squirrely.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say in closing about that is just the fact that we can look at our thoughts means our thoughts aren't us, and that's the confusion as humans we get caught in all the time. We think, I'm thinking it, therefore it's me. And if we really practice letting go of thoughts, returning to the present moment again and again, those thoughts start to lose their power over us gradually over time. And we get some distance on what we think. And boy, what a relief. Because I don't know about you all, but what I think isn't always lovely. You know? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's I am lovely awareness, or loving awareness, but
And that's-
sometimes it's not. Yeah.
You're just taking the bait.
Yeah.
Good.
Because sometimes I found that the
Meditation.
thoughts that are coming to me aren't even mine.
Yeah.
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 Like one time I was in this college area, and there was a computer there, and this thought came to my mind, oh, it'd be easy to steal this, and I'm like, that's not my thought.
Well,
And then like a couple weeks later, a guy got arrested for stealing the computer. Obviously his thought, that was in my and he wasn't even in there when I was thinking it.
some people can think of other people's thoughts, but also the mind, its job is to protect us, and it will think anything that might protect us, including completely inappropriate things that we would never do. But that's just more evidence that the mind's not us, it's its own, it secretes thoughts, you know, just like our stomach secretes stomach acid. We don't think we're stomach acid, but somehow we think we're thoughts. What did you want to say, Dave?
It's just that some guru said once, meditation is not what we do, it's what we are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the one that's experiencing all of this is what we're coming back to.
We're awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that realization is so,
And we forget it again and again.
Oh.
That's why we practice.
Yes.
There's a line of thinking out there that we could also achieve harmony and balance in our mental chatter and life and all that by coexisting with the thoughts and emotions of our past and future. And I don't think that's anathema to anything you presented this morning.
No, we don't have to get rid of them necessarily. We hope they fall into their place. That's the thought about the past. That's not the present. Is it serving me now? Great. If it's not serving me now, then, then maybe I can make a different choice. But what we hope is to gain some influence over what we're thinking, so it's not all just running itself. The next thing we know, you're stealing the computer.
I knew that was wrong. No, that's not me.